Here we go. We're going live now.
All right.
There. Oh, and there is Brian Henson.
Full compliment.
Hey, Brian.
Patiently waiting. You know, my camera wasn't
Excellent.
picking up on me. I'm a little jet lagged because I just got home last night. So, but I am ready and willing to go. So
Excellent. Well, I'm going to change your camera a little bit here. There we go. That's better. No, well, now you threw it all off again.
Oh, no, you've done it
oh,
wrong.
look at that. See, I'm trying to help too. I'm trying to help.
Oh, no.
All right, hang on. Let me turn this off. Okay. Well, all right. Actually, that's pretty good. That's
All right.
That's
That
pretty
works.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was adjusting your camera here, and you like reached in and.
Well, that was it. So
There.
look at this. Now I'm moving in and
There.
out. Okay,
That's
that's you
perfect.
doing that, Mike. I'm like, I'm not doing anything.
That is perfect, right
Honey,
there.
I Shrunk the Kids.
You look a little small there, Brian. Here we go. Oh, here we go. There you go.
There.
Oh, it's all that clever software that Mike's got, you see, all that eCam goodness.
Well, I
All
was
that.
going to fire up the virtual camera today, right? But I decided to stay with the old school 360 link software because I didn't want to throw Mike off. So
I turned off the AI tracking thing so I don't bounce around all over.
I have, I'm not, I like the ObSpot Tail 2 and Tail Air that we use at Macstock. I think those are great. I'm having some issues with the little, what is this thing? Whatever this is. Whatever the little tiny ones are. I think it's called the Tiny, actually. The Tiny 2. I have a little issue with it where it keeps wanting to like zoom way in and then zoom out and zoom in. And I'm like, oh, good gracious.
Too much intelligence in your camera,
Yeah.
All you want is for a picture that stays still and just works.
This is the FaceTime camera. It works great.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it looks great. Darren, it's
Yeah.
nice to meet you. I feel like I already know you. I'm a huge fan of the podcast.
Oh,
and,
fantastic.
And it's been great listening to you and Mike riff off of one another. I know Brian, so I don't have to introduce myself to him. But
Oh, yeah, it's good to meet you too. Excellent.
And Mr. Henson has his Macstock 2016 shirt.
I decided, yes, Mike gave me some nice swag. I still really appreciate that. So I'm like, okay, what should I go with, right? And I figured I'm going to go with the 16. I was going back and forth. So I had one that I picked out, but the Macstock, it was just below, so nobody would be able to see. So I went with the vertical reference on the side. I'm going the wrong way. I got to go this way, because of the camera.
Yeah.
See, I see it. I'm the only one without any Macstock swag. I still can't believe it to this day.
Well, you have to actually attend, my friend.
Do you?
You
Really?
need to make your
rats.
way to the U.S. and attend Macstock, and then make a full trip of it. Do what Martin does and make a full trip. He stays here like 2-3 weeks.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good point, actually. Yeah. Turning up would probably be quite useful.
Would have been this year. You would
Yes.
have met
Well,
Mr.
we'll be
Pope.
getting into that. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear all the wonderful shenanigans that occurred.
Plenty. That's why we have Brian and Brian on. So Brian and Brian, I need to figure out, I was talking to Brian FA here before we started and decided that I'm going to need to refer to you by full names. Brian Henson and Brian F.A. Brian Flanigan-Arthurs.
Well, we can figure it out too, to be honest with you, Mike. So you don't have
I'll
to.
get Flanny, BFA.
Yeah, we can come up with nicknames.
BFA.
Okay, I'll tell you this. I will never, ever in my life call you Flanny. I
All
promise.
right.
Fanny would probably. Yeah, you have to be careful when you call someone Fanny. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, well,
get that
okay.
right.
Let's clarify that, because as
Especially in the UK.
Americans,
Yeah.
as Americans here, and other direction down there, we often refer to a little bag that we might wear about our waist as a fanny pack. That's what it is. Sorry, Darren, I know what that means in the UK, but it does not mean the same thing here. So in the UK, they call them bum bags, if anything, or perhaps a waist bag or something like that. But here they're called fanny packs. So,
Yeah, that always makes people laugh here when anyone says
Completely
fat.
different meaning. My apologies to
different meaning,
anyone
yes.
from Europe or the UK who acknowledges the other meaning of that.
Well, and Mike, now you have when I do any like introduction of Brian next year, I can call him BFA or Flanny, so we got some. I'm already building the material for next year.
Well, I did, I did come up with my own nickname for him at Macstock on the fly,
Yeah.
but we'll get into that later. Maybe we will. Well,
Scientist assistant.
for what it's worth, we are now under a, well, actually it brightened up a little bit, but we had a severe storm roll through here. So you were getting those too, I'll bet, Brian.
Yeah, and that was it. So my internet went down. I have two networks. So I thought I'm going to have to move to the other network. I had red on my Eero, and that's Mike knows I just upgraded my network from an Airport Extreme from 2012. But it was I just rebooted and everything was good. And I'm like, good. I won't have to switch networks and everything like that. I'm Ethernet connected, which I prefer for streaming like this, obviously. And then I'd have to go to Wi-Fi, and I'm like, I really don't want to do that. So.
Well, you're probably Ethernet connected to one of the Eero mesh points.
No, so my setup comes in. Everybody, I've got an old school DSL connection for my home office. So I am not, but I get reasonable rates. So I go from effectively the phone line into the AT&T modem, into the Eero, and the Ethernet is connected right into there. So I'm completely hardwired.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not hardwired into one of the mesh points that's then itself wireless. You're wired into the Eero and then wired from there to your computer.
Yep. So
Yeah.
it's wall to the AT&T, router effectively, and that's a modem built in, and then to the Eero, and then Ethernet right to my computer. So it's all hardwired.
Well, that's actually what I've got going on here. So that little dude right there, right there,
Yeah.
is actually hard. So I'm 2 levels below where our router is, our ISP router, 2 levels below. Fortunately, we had the foresight to ask that they put conduit from the top level to the basement. And I'm in the basement here. So what we've got is the ISP's router hardwired into one of those puppies upstairs, and then a direct Ethernet line going from the second floor down to the basement here. And then that's why you see the cable dangling down from the top, because I've been too lazy to pull it behind the wall and then through. So it dangles down and looks like I've got an antenna.
Well, it looks like part of the staging back there,
Yeah.
No, it's good. Yeah. No, it's interesting with the setup. I think I told Mike this story before, but we've got Spectrum Internet here. Darren, I don't know what you have, right? But to get a Spectrum guy to run effectively any type of Ethernet cable or coaxial cable, you would think you were asking them to paint your house when they come. It's bananas. So the AT&T guy came and said, "Oh, no problem. You got a phone jack right there. I'll take care of it." So I've had this DSL set up for a few years. I get basically about 120/15. So it's still good for DSL, but it's nothing like
120?
Spectrum.
For
120.
DSL?
That's
DSL.
good from DSL.
That's
Yeah.
really good for DSL. Gosh.
Well, and
Yes.
Dave Hamilton at first said he thinks there's some sort of compression that they're doing over here. Now, here's the sad thing. I live in a condo, and literally the fiber goes right up to where our condo association was. And now the condo association would have to pay like $30,000 to run fiber in. And I don't think, they're putting all kinds of other like upgrades in. We got a great condo association, but I don't think fiber is going to be a priority, because I think most of the people here are Spectrum, which again, we just got upgraded again. So it's like 550 or something like that. It's like bananas, really good. But in the office, I just run the DSL. So
I keep paying for 200 or 250 down and I want to say 10 up or something, but they keep free upgrading me to 550. And every year they just say, "Hey, here's another year of it. Here's another year of it. No extra charge right now." Okay. That
That's
works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine's a little old school. I'm with BT, British Telecom, as it were, but I've got a really old router and I've swapped over to EE, which in the UK is part and parcel with BT, so they're pretty much both the same. So I have a router to swap in a new one, which I'll be doing tomorrow. So I'm on my old router currently. So yeah, I can't get full fiber here yet. They have a lovely guarantee on their website. They say that for the same price you're paying, when full fiber is available, we'll come and switch you over for free, which is quite nice. So
Good
fair
deal.
enough. But I can't get it yet. So I'm like you, Brian. Brian 1 or Brian 2. Well, Brian 1.
Flanny.
I'm yeah. So I'm getting nowhere near as good download speeds as yourselves. I get about 60 down, which I thought was quite good for a DSL. Although it's not nowhere near as good as yours, Brian, at 120. But then I've got quite a nice upload speed of between 15 to 20.
Yeah.
So that's not bad going back up.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm entirely wireless as well. So all of this is over 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. So I have DSL connection just over there, and then I have everything else in my lovely flat is entirely wireless.
Wow. I mean, for both of you, 60 up and 120, you said up, is tremendous for DSL. I mean, back in the day, it used to top out at 25 if you were lucky, maybe 30. And that all depended upon how close you were to the central office, which I think is still the case. You know, it depends on how close you are to that central telephone office so that they can not have to go too far with it. But yeah, 60 and 120 is fantastic.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
think
I
I'm
wasn't sure
getting
whether
what's
that was
advertised.
technically possible, actually. Oh,
Well, and like I
carry
said,
on.
there was people when I first mentioned it. I think it was last year at Macstock. There were people like, "There's no way you're getting that." And Dave Hamilton, I'm like, "No, I do the speed test, right? Unless it's like, it's like, oh, we're gonna give Brian numbers that are gonna make him happy, right? That type of thing." But yeah, Dave Hamilton thought that there's probably some sort of compression going on. He also feels, and he's probably right, that there's probably not a lot of DSL people that are in my condo complex, so I'm getting the advantage of not sharing the bandwidth
Okay.
from the
True.
fiber. And because
No
probably
share, yeah.
the because you can see if you go on the networks around me, they're all Spectrum networks. You can tell there's very few people that change the name of their network, which is probably a smart thing to do to at least identify your network, even if you're not worried about your neighbor sneaking in and on your network.
Although that's a bigger issue for cable, when you have multiple people coming off the same line. But it's not typically an issue for DSL, although it does depend on how crowded that central office is, how many people are coming in there and then splitting out. But maybe it's a bonded line. Maybe they're bonding two DSL lines or something like that.
That sounds interesting.
We used
Could
to
be a
do that with
bonded line, yeah,
T1s
that speed, yeah.
at the
Oh,
ad
I used
agency.
to do that with ISDN, yeah, back in
Yeah.
the day. 2 ISDN lines to get what used to be super speedy back then.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And we would do that with T1. So we would have the T1 in. It required 2 Cisco routers in the office, but they would come in and you'd have that bonded connection. So you effectively are getting double the bandwidth. We had 1024 up, 1 megabit per second. That translates to, by the way. That was a T1. That was fast, man.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
That was also,
it's fast now.
25 years ago. But
It's funny how speed is all relative to
Yeah.
the era, and yeah.
300
yeah.
baud modems.
Yeah, I remember going from a 2500 baud modem to a 7500, and it was like a huge speed jump to like 24,000 after that, and it was just like, yeah. And then you get kicked off the internet because somebody picked up the phone.
Yep.
I remember even at the university where I was, I remember having to download Amiga floppies at 880k But I had to do it in chunks, sections, because I couldn't
Yep.
do the whole thing at once. So I had to do it in little sections and join them together. Those were the days. 880K for a floppy. Brilliant.
Let's see if I can. Well, we'll get started here in a second. I was telling Brian Flanigan-Arthurs that I just kind of threw together some questions. I got some questions from Janet, actually. I said, what would you want to answer as a volunteer? What kind of questions would you want to know about? And she gave me a couple really good ones, including one specifically for Brian Flanigan-Arthurs. I was trying to find something here. Let's see if I can get this.
And I think Darren's suggestion was good too. I think everybody's all excited about what's coming out next month and possibly in October. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm here for it. I've been eagerly awaiting all of the 27 version OSs. I'm a big OS fiend. I love it when the new OSs come out because it feels like you get a new device every year. So
Yeah,
for free, like
especially
in
for the older
software,
iPhone.
it really feels dramatic sometimes. So I think this one's going to be very dramatic actually. Yeah.
Yeah. I put the public beta on the iPad and on the Mac.
Well done. I'm
I
not
didn't
brave
put it
enough
on
for
the
that
phone.
yet.
Well, and I don't use my Mac for my 9-to-5 job. So, but on the iPhone, yeah, no, not touching it.
Well, that's it. It's day to day, and yeah.
Yeah.
I did start to prep the Macstock Mac Mini for Snow Tahoe.
Snow
And
Tahoe, I
Great
like
name.
it. I like it.
I can't remember Golden Gate, and Snow Tahoe
That's
just
it.
seems much more appropriate.
Yeah.
So that's why I call it that. But I started to prep it for it, and I wanted to make sure I got a full Time Machine backup before I did anything, so I could just roll back very easily if I needed to. Although it doesn't get used much outside of Macstock, so it's not really going to hurt much, if I just put it on there and play around with it. But I got to the point where I hooked up the Time Machine drive, let it do its thing, and got distracted and just haven't gotten back to it yet. So
Well, you might as well wait for it to be released for
At this
realsies,
point, yeah.
At this point, exactly. Yeah.
so end of September, most likely.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah. But you are not running the betas, are you, Darren?
Nope. I'm
No, I
too
didn't think
scaredy
so.
cat. No,
Too scary. Yeah.
that's it.
Well,
I liked one of the reasons I like the stability of the whole Apple ecosystem and how systems work together as well is I think one of the reasons I've got such really good stability is that I keep everything on public release, and I've never been tempted to go a bit too far into the void and then have to try and drag myself back and so on. So I just keep on public releases all the time. That's just a little rule for myself. It does mean that I don't get to actually play, but that's fine. I don't mind that at all because I'm one of those eager beavers. So yeah, I am a scaredy cat for the betas, as you'd say, but I'm an eager beaver for when they're released. So when the release notification comes out, I'm there pretty much like in the same few minutes. I'm gonna try and update right away.
I remember last year you did that with all the 26 releases.
That's it. I do that every year. I jump straight on there and jump straight in. The first hour they're available, I'll be jumping in there. But that's when everybody else is also jumping in there. So it's usually quite slow to do your first update if you're keen. So yeah, I'm pretty keen to upgrade my OSs when they come out.
I used to wait till the 0.1 updates and then go ahead. Okay.
Smart.
That's too long.
Well, Mike is conservative, and I'm even more. I used to wait, Darren, you may appreciate this. I used to wait for Don McAllister when he had the screencast online to say, I think it's safe for you to upgrade.
It's safe
And that's
now.
when I would do it, right? I would wait for Don McAllister to give me the green light,
Wow.
and then I would do
Absolutely.
it. So,
Well, yeah, that's true. If the Don says it's go for gold, then you can't ignore Don McAllister. That's for sure.
well,
Well,
and I
I like
no,
how you said
sorry,
the
Mike.
Don. Hey,
The
It's
dog,
okay to
exactly. Yeah.
upgrade now.
Yes.
Oh,
Well,
it'd be a shame if you lost all your data.
If you lost,
But it's a painless experience, like you said, Darren. I mean,
That's
I
it.
remember even Leopard going to Snow Leopard, which we all know. Snow Leopard was a fantastic operating
Oh, yeah.
system. Once I got on it, I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry I didn't upgrade it earlier, but I was still happy, right? Because nothing was really wrong with Leopard at that particular point. But I loved Snow Leopard, even though if we were running Snow Leopard today, we'd feel like we were missing out on all kinds of
Well,
features, you know.
and
I'm not sure.
even then it was the sneaker net. You know, you would take the first few Mac OS 10 updates. You know, you walk down to Apple Store, CompUSA, whoever to go pick up a
and buy a
box.
disc.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I remember buying a disc.
Yeah, and you paid for it. That was
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
It's
that's
not like
it.
today.
$129. Here you
That's
go.
right. Yeah.
And even worse, it was £129, which is more.
Virgin, yeah.
Or back then, I think it was more.
well, I think based on what I've seen so far about Golden Gate, I think Apple is eager to get back to the point where people are no longer saying that Snow Leopard was the best version of OS 10 ever. And maybe actually release something where people say, you know what, this is a pretty darn good version. I'm glad I upgraded.
Yeah.
Because that certainly was not the case last year.
You didn't have a
Yeah,
good
mind
liquid
you-
glass experience, Mike?
Wow. Yeah.
How much time do you have? No. You know what? It wasn't the liquid glass. I mean, it was to a certain extent, but it was the stupid changes that they made that they're reverting. You know, everything that they're reverting with Golden Gate, that was the stupid stuff they did. They realized it was stupid stuff. Maybe they actually listened to the episode where I called it stupid stuff. And I'm excited to get back to the point where, the little insane border that they put around the sidebar is gone.
Yeah.
It
seemed like some of the attention to
apart from-
detail. Yeah.
attention to
I
detail.
think apart from the visuals, I think they still did in a way, but it was hidden under the bonnet. I think they did some preparatory work and some, putting some preamble stuff out there to make things ready for what it could have been. So I agree that visually Tahoe wasn't the greatest success, shall we say, but they laid the seeds of what would be coming, and they did a lot of good work under the bonnet. But then nobody saw that because it was under the bonnet.
Yeah.
So, Mike, are you hoping for the leather and wood theme to come back to contacts?
Oh yes, yes.
Mike
Baize
doesn't even
table.
remember that. He probably doesn't even know what I'm
I
referencing.
do remember that. That was skeuomorphic design. That was Steve Jobs' baby,
Yes.
man. He loved that stuff.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it got in the way and sometimes it was cool, but trying to adopt it all throughout the operating system maybe didn't work quite as well as they had hoped it would.
Well, I did like the old icons. They were really, really good. They were works of art. And now I think we've gone back a tad, especially seeing the newest icons for like the Office suites, for instance. It's all a bit, no, that's nowhere near the quality of how the icons used to be. They used to be works of art, and you could blow them up, and you could even read little bits of text on the icons if you expanded them. They were really artistic.
Little
I think
Easter
we've gone
eggs.
downhill a bit with the icons.
Yeah.
I remember seeing the old, like going to the bookcase and seeing the little books on that bookshelf.
There you go.
was neat.
Absolutely, yes. It was perfect. I love those little things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those little touches are missing. And that's a shame. I think they're going to bring a little bit of that back with the multi-layered icons that they're working on for Golden Gate.
Yes, I particularly liked the one for maps, I think it is.
Which is what they demoed,
Yeah, which is what they had in the demo. Yeah, it's multiple layers of glass objects that refract between each other, and as it moves, you get this lovely effect, like without having to animate it, because it's done. It's not pre-rendered or anything. It's actually rendered for a light source and changes in the interface. So it's really cleverly done.
Yeah. And I appreciate the consistency, but the change to all Squircle icons on the Mac has somewhat diminished the unique aspects of third-party applications. It's a lot harder to discern them when they're all sitting there. Like, I can quickly pick out the one icon on my dock, ID3 editor, that I did not allow to switch over to Squircle. I can pick it out like that because I identify the shape, I identify the icon. But when all the other, right next to it is Max. That's another one I didn't allow to go to Squircle. But all the other ones, they're a lot. It takes a beat before you can actually identify it and say, oh yeah, okay, that's Pages. Oh, okay, and it was like you said, a lot of the personality's been swept out the door in favor of this homogenized look across all the devices, and I'm not sure that's necessary for the Mac. But.
Yeah. I'd like to see a little bit because the Mac OS has always had little hints here and there of whimsy, personality and whimsy, exactly. So I'd like to see a little bit of whimsy coming back into the OS, just for fun.
Yep. Well, what do you gentlemen think? Should we get started here?
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic warm-up we've had.
Yeah.
So.
Excellent, yeah. In fact, that could be the whole show. We could just hit record and stop and then just put that out. There you go.
Yeah. We could do that.
Everybody's internet connection.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, did you see Brian did a speed test, 243 down and 6 up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a Wi-Fi 5, I think. I think it's 5. I haven't found any issues, so I'm like, why upgrade if I'm not for the sake of upgrading?
Yeah, that's it. Mine's the same, I think. Yeah, mine's Wi-Fi 5, and I don't know. I've got a split network, so I have my home devices on the 2. And some other devices that won't go to 5 gigahertz. I've got those on a separate 2.4 gigahertz SSID, so I just have them split up so that I can make sure I force the 5 gigahertz devices to always connect at 5 gigahertz. Else they tend to try and jump around and do what they fancy.
I need to do a better job with that. Yeah.
And this now has 2.45 and 6 gigahertz.
I don't know what you would do with the fancy one, whether you should leave it all combined and for it to work things out for itself, or whether you should still do things like splits.
I had them separate.
Makes any sense anymore. Who knows?
I had them separate, and then I went into the app and was kind of adjusting some of the other settings, and it said, "Hey, do you want to set all these up under the same SSID and just let your devices figure out which one's the best for them?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, what the heck." So at the moment, I think only my phone and maybe the new MacBook Air that we just got here. I think those are the only two that can connect to it. This MacBook Pro can't see the 6. At least I don't think this was able to see the 6. Now I don't know because they're all under the same SSID, so I have no idea anymore. But there you go. All right. Let us get started here. Start. Boom. Okay. Here we go. Guessing Eric is not joining us. He would have been, or he joined and I didn't see him join us and he went away again. I don't know. No, he should have popped up. He should have popped up if he was in there. Okay. All right. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. It's For Mac Guys Only, episode number 476 for August 9th, 2026. Pulling the Levers at Macstock. Hey everyone, welcome back to For Mac Guys Only, the show for the Mac community, where we share our thoughts and opinions on current Mac news and events. And joining me to take a look back at Macstock 10 are Darren Davies. Howdy, Darren. How you doing?
Hello there. I'm the only person on the podcast called Darren, so that would be useful for later on.
Indeed, indeed. And next to Darren is Mr. Brian Flanigan-Arthurs. Howdy, Brian. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, how's it going?
Excellent. And next to Brian is another Brian, Macstock's MC extraordinaire, Brian Henson. Hey, Brian.
Thrilled to be back on FMEO. Mike always gets a kick out of me calling it, but I've called it FMEO for many years, so thrilled to be back.
And thanks to you, I call it FMEO now. That, for those who don't know, FMEO is Brian's invention.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah, Mike used to be always, it was funny because I'd call the podcast FMEO and he would be, and then he started doing it. So I thanks for the credit. I appreciate it.
Brilliant.
We
That's
are,
where I got it
after all,
from. So I've always called it that. So yeah.
yeah, we are, after all, on FMEO TV on YouTube. So there you go. Oh, speaking of which,
Rolls off the tongue.
Speaking of which, remember, we do normally record for Mac Guys Only live on YouTube the second and fourth Sunday of the month. And if you would like to come hang out, ask questions, and be part of our live studio audience, be sure to subscribe to the show. It's free at youtube.com/FMEO TV. And if you are joining us over on the tubes of you, I'm going to be keeping an eye on the chat room. So if you have any questions or comments, be sure to drop them in there and we will address them here on the show. Well, Macstock 10 has come and gone. But I am still hearing from folks who attended and got far more than they expected, not only from Macstock itself, but from our new pals at Ecamm, who held the first ever Creator Camp Macstock edition, which, by the way, for those who attended Creator Camp, brought Macstock from 3 days to a whopping 4 days of presentations on all things Apple and beyond, really. And part of the reason Macstock was such a success this year wasn't only the 3 days of talks. It wasn't Creator Camp. It wasn't a fantastic evening with David Pogue, Marty's hands-on troubleshooting session Saturday night, or even all the amazing content and conversations that took place between sessions and into the evening each night. No, a huge part of Macstock's success each year is thanks to our volunteers. Everyone, and that includes everyone behind the scenes who pitches in each year to help me keep things running as smoothly as we possibly can, even when things go slightly off kilter. Now, admittedly, some of these folks are not just wizards tucked away behind a curtain pulling at levers. In some cases, they're the folks who keep things running smoothly on stage as well. And while we don't have all of our amazing volunteers joining us today, who lend a hand to bring Macstock to life each summer, including Cindy Rotz, Roger Harmon at the AV desk, my dad, Bob Potter, and of course my wife, Janet, we do have two individuals who played a huge role at Macstock this year, even if their tasks were slightly different. Now, you already met them, but that would be, of course, Brian Henson and Brian Flanigan-Arthurs. Hi, guys. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thrilled to be back.
Awesome.
Now, I'm actually really glad that you could both join us because when thinking back on something like Macstock, people usually think of the presentations or they think of the conversations that they've had. But one perspective that's often overlooked is from the volunteer side of things. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. Now, I'm not sure about you, but as the organizer running around keeping things going, I rarely get the chance to sit through a full presentation because there's always something that needs my attention. And that changes the experience. Now, fortunately, I get to rewatch all the presentations later when I edit the digital pass, but as a volunteer, it's long hours, and sometimes you miss parts of presentations. Or in Janet's case, she specifically said she always misses the desserts. So let's start with you, Brian Henson, and then we'll ask you the same question, Brian Flanigan-Arthurs. We'll have to figure out how to address the two Brians here. Why do you do it? Why do you do it, Brian?
Well, and first and foremost, I love the event. I really do. I've been at every one. I mean, Mike, you probably remember the origin story. I've talked about this before. I remember leading up to the event, and I talked about being involved with other organizations where we were doing speaking presentations and stuff like that. And I think you were prepared to do like all the introductions and handle all the speaking stuff. And I said,
I
Mike,
tried.
there's going to be so many people that are going to come up to you and ask you for things or different things like that. So at that point, I volunteered to be like your speaker wrangler. And, I was ready, willing, and able to do introductions. And I remember you're kind of like, okay, I think that might be a good idea. And then from there, it just evolved. And I love the community. I love the speakers. I love working with the speakers. It's fun to try to make the event a better experience for everybody involved, trying to include not only the speakers that are actually jumping up on the podium, but actually the people that are participating in the event. And I love it. This was my favorite Macstock. I think the additional length of it was fantastic. I think working with the eCam people was great. And I just love the community. I love the effort you put into it. I love the spirit of the event. And it's just so fun for me to be involved with it.
Well, I appreciate that. And Brian, now this was actually Brian Flanigan-Arthurs. This was actually your first year volunteering. You've presented at Macstock. You've attended at Macstock before, but why do you do it?
To echo Brian Henson and his comments, I love it. It's such an amazing event to hear the speakers and the passion and the community all come together. My only regret is not being able to start coming earlier. My first one was intended to be in 2020. But I loved enjoying it virtually, when we were able, and then being able to start attending in 21. There was 1 year post that just work conflict. I wasn't able to attend, but it's really, truly a joy. It's my favorite weekend of the year to be able to come up and enjoy just the camaraderie of everyone. But specifically in regards to volunteering, in my role, I'm an educator. And I've, in that role, you oftentimes will be there to be in the service of others and to help. And I've, outside of professionally, I've done a lot of customer service type jobs. And a lot of times you just kind of learn, when somebody needs help, you jump in and you help them out. And oftentimes it could just be that little thing that somebody just wants to be heard. Somebody has a question. And if you rely on just one person the whole time for everything, it can really throw everything off kilter. And, by one person answering all the questions and not being able to delegate, it really is a tough situation that isn't good for anyone. So that's kind of my background, I guess.
Well, you're right. And you specifically lent a huge hand for David Pogue's evening on Friday. There was some stuff that you did there that was a tremendous help. And I know that you pitched in a lot of fantastic ideas for how to make that evening run a little bit more smoothly. For those who don't know, we had a fantastic opportunity to have Mr. Pogue join us on Friday night, and he put on his usual talk and presentation and gave a little history and background of Apple and his interactions with the folks who worked there and his history with Apple and all that. But we also had a book signing. And in order for a book signing to run smoothly, you really have to be well organized. And you specifically had some suggestions for Janet on how to make that run a little bit more efficiently, didn't you?
Thanks. Just being able to kind of organize, because you had essentially folks who had pre-purchased the books, you had books for sale at the event. And then even just thinking through just the flow of the lines and how that would work. And so being able to kind of try to think ahead of, if, you have this many people going through this area, where's the bottleneck going to be? Where's the, we don't, you think about the aspects of efficiency and being able to get through and get what get your books and to be able to come back around and be able to stand in line for a book signing. Just kind of where and how that'll work. that was kind of the aspect of it. Yeah.
Now, Brian Henson, speaking of the book signing part of it, we tried our darndest to organize that as best we could, and yet it didn't seem to work quite as smoothly as we hoped it would, did it?
Well, it worked out okay. It was spontaneous. So I kind of stayed up figuring, I could try, right? Because, we had a lot of people in that line. So yeah, everybody can't have 20 minutes with David, right? So I thought, okay, well, I'll be up here and, maybe can help him so he doesn't have to try to we're going to be here till, 5 a.m. We were there still pretty late.
12:30. Yeah,
but
he
then
started at 7.
There was a person that was actually taking pictures, and then she left. So then I started taking pictures with everybody with David. So it worked out really well. So people got to see some of my bad camera work too as we were doing it too. But I tried to take a bunch of pictures. So I hope a lot of people took away from that not only did I take one shot with them standing next to David with the book, but I tried to take pictures when he was signing the book and some more spontaneous ones. And I got a couple of thank yous for doing that. And I just it was kind of a fun, spontaneous thing, and I think it worked out. It was a great night. I mean, it was a late night, and I was tired coming back the next day, but you run it on the adrenaline of the event and everything else, but it was fantastic, and Brian did a terrific job with navigating everybody through that line, and I think David was very gracious with his time with everyone, not only signing the books, but talking to them, and I thought we had a pretty smooth flow that people felt they got time with David Pogue and got the book signed, got their picture taken, could make a few comments, and he was absolutely fantastic. I don't think he made anybody feel rushed, but I think everybody in the community was very respectful to one another to not turn it into a 20-minute, conversation with David,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because they could do that outside of it. They could do that before his presentation, and also Saturday morning. Folks had the opportunity to converse with him if they wanted to, so... Yeah.
And it was a fantastic presentation. I mean, I think everybody had high expectations for it, but I think he fed off of the community really well. And I think he sensed that these were people that were very passionate Mac enthusiasts. I mean, it's Macstock. And he kind of pivoted his presentation a little bit to being away from just the general book signing presentation of somebody that may be interested in Apple computers, but not the passionate enthusiast level of the people that are going to show up in Crystal Lake, Illinois to talk Mac for 4 days, so.
Well, he knew if he dropped a name, people would get it. And so he wasn't afraid to expand on his stories and really give us a lot of inside detail that we wouldn't have heard if we had just gone to a book signing at, local bookstore.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of people that might go to a local bookstore that might not know who John Turnus is right now, for example. And I'm just being perfectly honest. I'm not trying to, that type of thing. But I guarantee you the Macstock community is like, yes, Tim Cook's stepping down and John Turnus is going to be on board in September. So,
yeah. Did, David's presentation aside, with the other talks all weekend long, what do we have, 18 presentations just for Macstock, I think. Did you actually get to see all the talks that you wanted to take in?
Are you talking? So I'm just making sure. No, I don't always get to. And it's interesting, right? Because there's so many, and that's why I'm glad, obviously, that you have the virtual pass, because it gives you an opportunity to go back and see some of them. There are some presentations that I definitely wanted to see. I saw Mike Schmidt's. I look at Brian. You got your plant. You've got your lamp. You've got your bookshelf. So you were like a Mike Schmidt, like there. And, Mike Potter, you got fantastic lighting. So, when you look at the eCam presentation and Mike Schmidt's presentation about firing up your own YouTube channel, there were some things that I definitely wanted to see about that. So I made some effort to really spend time with Mike, and the way that the speaker lineup worked out really well. But a lot of times, especially when you have new speakers, I want them to feel comfortable. I want to let them know that, are you going to use a lav? Are you going to use a handheld mic? I'm here. We will get you set up. Your presentation will be good. Roger's got you all taken care of, running the Stream Deck and everything else. So a lot of times you're doing those things. So I didn't get to see everything that I wanted to, but you do prioritize a couple of presentations, but there's always a surprise one. Brian had one a couple of years ago that was very much one of my favorite presentations that he did. And you always have high expectations, but there's always somebody that comes up with something. And I've mentioned this on Chuck Joiner's podcast too. So anybody who listens to that, I apologize for repeating a story. But I remember when Marty Gensius first came in for the first time, and his AI presentation, it literally changed my entire view of artificial intelligence and machine learning in his presentation. And it's not just like little iterations, it's being highly skeptical of it to embracing it as a tool. And there's always that type of presentation. So I always look to see who's going to be the surprise, but there's so many things that you're always doing with working with the speakers that I wish I could see more, but it's part of why I'm so excited about the event, because you never feel like, there's like those slow moments of it. There's always something to do, or somebody that you're helping, or just coming over to Mike to say, hey, everything good, that type of thing. Or me trying to throw a little joke at him of something crazy I'm going to do that I'll never do, but I'll pretend that I'm going to do it just to throw him off.
Oh, a little inside baseball there. Okay.
That's right.
All right, I get it. I get it. I'll have to remember that next year.
One of my favorite Macstock things to do is always try to come up with something for Brett Terpstra. I always do something. This year, what I did is he wasn't at the David Pogue book signing, and so I actually had his copy of the book, and I gave it to him, and I said,
right.
Not only did I make sure that David signed your book, but I put a personal note in your book too. And Brett looked at me, and I'm just like, just kidding, buddy. I always find a way to get him. So, and it's one of my favorite, that's my little Easter egg with Macstock, is always finding some way. And it's getting harder every year because Terpstra now knows, and he's a smart guy, that I'm always going to try to come up with something. But him not being at the book signing was absolutely perfect. I think I took the book from Brian. I think I took it from you. I'm like, no, I'll take that. I can get it to Brett. So,
that's right. How about you, Brian? Did you get to see all the talks you wanted to see this year?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to see most all of them. Everyone, bits and pieces of all of them, I should say. And so, like you, I'm really looking forward to the digital pass to be able to go back and
right.
Plus, even just sitting there live watching them, I'm taking notes, I'm learning, I'm watching, and they're just, your brain can't process everything at once. It's always so great to be able to go back and to review, what was learned. But yeah, same type of thing. It's just those small spontaneous questions and conversations and things that come up, as needed, when they come up, and being able to jump over and help somebody out, point somebody in a general direction of something. And sometimes it's more logistical things too. Just the fact of, the space that we're in, where restrooms might be, or where they have a question about something. It's like, oh, here, maybe, go this way or talk to this person. Those types of things that sometimes will come up that you don't realize, you don't necessarily prep for, but you want to make sure that you're knowledgeable about to be able to point them in that direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's stick with you for just a second here, because now I mentioned this a moment ago, you've been to Macstock as an attendee. You've presented twice now, right? Or three times? Twice. But now that you're a volunteer, has your perspective of Macstock changed at all?
Of course, it's always changes, but not necessarily better or worse. It's just like you just get a fuller understanding of kind of like a zoomed out understanding of how things come together sometimes. When you think about the processes of checking people in, and when at the registration desk, when people are first coming, and being able to make those connections, you kind of gain even a deeper appreciation for folks that I recognize by sight. I may not recognize, each and every name, but being able to make those connections and and being able to just make those connections and say, ask how they're doing, and, how far did you come in, and, hearing the nice stories of people who drove in from quite a distance or flew in from quite a distance, and being able to, make those connections right away with people who are coming through the registration table area. and then even on the technical end, I'm by no means an expert in any way whatsoever with audio video, but being able to, just help, just by being a extra set of hands to plug things in and to just kind of understand and learn, kind of gave a better and deeper understanding too.
Oh, that's huge. When I knew that you would be a fantastic volunteer this year because I know that if something comes up and I say, hey, Brian, can you take care of this for me? Or can you go, plug this cable in? Or can you go talk to Roger and see if he can get help with X or Y? You'll do it, and even if you're not 100% comfortable with the audio visual stuff, Roger's there and he'll help, guide you through it. And that, and you'll just jump in and do everything and anything that you can. And I just think that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Now, you kind of touched on this, Brian Henson, but you have been effectively a volunteer since Macstock 1 back in 2015, because we've known each other for far longer than Macstocks existed. In fact, you were a guest on FMEO TV way back when. We did a whole series of episodes, which are still out there on the channel if anyone wants to watch them. But we did a whole series of episodes there on For Mac Only TV. So, you've been volunteering since 2015, and a lot has changed for you in the past 10 years, for you and for Macstock. What's been the biggest change that you've witnessed at Macstock, and how has it affected your experience each summer?
Well, I think it's the community growing. I think that's the big thing. I mean, there's a lot of people right now. I look at like Martin, who makes the pilgrimage every year, right? And, getting to know, I think a lot of people, I think about the early event, and I've talked about the origin story of this too, because when Macworld folded up, and of course it lasted, I think, 1 or 2 years after Apple actually pulled out of Macworld, there was a void of people that were very involved in the Macworld community that looked very much forward to gathering every year at a much bigger event. But these small communities broke out. And there were pockets of those communities that actually just, all right, this is a chance for us to get back together in Woodstock, Illinois, of all places, right? Not Woodstock, New York, but Woodstock, Illinois, right?
Or Georgia.
And yeah, or Georgia, right? And I think a lot of people kind of took a flyer on it. And I think the one thing you've done, Mike, and I think you've done an incredible job, is harnessing that secret sauce of what people liked about going to Macworld, but putting it into a more, a boutique type format that people could come in and really enjoy. So for me, it's been the evolution of the community. And I think the other thing that's really exciting to me, and I always share this, is that you want to really embrace everybody in the community, because a lot of these events, it's almost like, I've used this example before, it's like being on the Titanic, and you have different
wonderful.
classes.
Thank you for that analogy, Brian.
Well, the ship doesn't sink, though, when you're at Macstock. and nor is it like buying a ticket for the Titanic, because if you go to a lot of these events, and I've been to some of them, like Perform Better, which is fantastic, and there's some great speakers there in the strength training and physical dieting and physical conditioning world. But what happens is it's like you have a speaker class, and everybody's gracious there, answer questions, but they're very Cheers presentation.
Oh, yeah, and you know what? My internet dropped out there for a moment, and I missed the last thing you said.
Oh, well, and
would you mind perfectly repeating exactly what you just said?
So the person that's sitting next to you at Macstock next year could be presenting. And I think that's one of the cool things. There's so many people, in the community that have things to offer. And I think that's absolutely fantastic when you see that. I think of like Michael DJ Eisenberg, right? I remember him as a participant. I remember him coming up presenting a Scotty vest at one time. And, he's been now a two-time presenter. Pat Fauquette is another example, right? I loved interacting with Pat all the years that she was a participant. And one of the highlights for me was her going up there, and you could tell the how well she wanted that presentation to go. And I was completely rooting for her because her stepping up on stage and presenting her story and trying to offer things that assisted her in her Apple world going through some of the health issues that she was dealing with, it was a very moving story for me. So I think it's the evolution of the community to me that you have people now that are truly great. I mean, they're truly great friends of mine. I mean, Chuck Joyner and Jeff Gamet and Allison Sheridan and Mike Schmidt. I really enjoy these people and really enjoy interacting with them, including, BFA. We're going to give Brian a nickname, and you, Mike. So I think the biggest thing is the evolution of the community. And I think the other thing that's actually some people have noticed, and you kind of pointed it out, is the expansion of the event. I mean, we had a 1-day event which went to 1.5 days, and then it became 2. And I think now the growing of the event, when you like something like this so much, it just continues to make it feel better, and it's evolved in a way that I think has actually been fantastic for the community as well. So you don't feel like you're coming in for an event like this for 1 day and you think, well, maybe I won't go. Now 4 days, it's an event, and you can really commit to it, as kind of like one of your must-do things for the summer.
I'll admit 4 days, as we got closer and closer to Macstock this summer, 4 days started to feel a little overwhelming to me, It's like, gosh, now, okay, so we did 3 days, we did 2 days, now we're doing 4 days. Is that too much? I mean, are people going to say, oh my gosh, I just can't do this 4th day? And yet, here comes Sunday afternoon, the event's over, and people are still looking for a little bit more and still looking for ways to continue to interact with each other for at least another day after that in some cases.
Well, and I think that's great. I think, Mike, and I don't mean to, I'm going to say this. I think you've done a good job with evolving the format too. I think about Mike Rose's presentation. He did a phenomenal presentation.
He did.
And one of the things that Mike said when he got done is, well, I had more. And I said, no, you were perfect, because he kept everything moving along. And like I told Mike, and I know Mike gets this, Mike's a really smart guy, that you want your presentation to end. Mike Rose. Yeah. Yes. Did I not say Mike Rose? Yes.
No.
But
I
anyways,
just wanted to clarify which Mike was the smart one.
Yes. Mike Schmidt's
Rose.
very smart too, by the way. I don't want to get in trouble with Rachel. But anyways, Mike Rose is phenomenal. But, I think the one great thing about his presentation is that he actually left everybody wanting more. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I do want to ask you a question, Brian Henson. So this year and last year, well, let's say, when did you officially take over MC duties? Was it 3 years ago?
I think this is my 3rd year, because I think the 3 years ago I was doing the introductions, but it wasn't official, the title of being MC.
And I think I mentioned in my closing comments that really, for people who didn't realize it, you were the 19th presenter this year, because you wanted to do something a little bit different with every presenter. And that is give a little story of how maybe they inspired you or their topic inspired you throughout the years, and or how someone else at Macstock inspired you throughout the years. So you were actually giving your presentation, but doing so over the course of 3 days, which is a first for Macstock. In addition to prepping the introductions for every speaker, how did that change how you prepared to take the mic at Macstock this year?
Well, and one of the things that I really didn't want to do was leave somebody out, right? Because somebody that with trying to give everybody a little bit of appreciation, even like Dr. Carter, who presented a few years ago. I think about Chris Cook's presentation, which was phenomenal. And, Chris obviously makes me think of Dr. Carter, because both of them are blind, and they're very much, they embrace that. I mean, Chris Cook is like a hero of mine because of how she handles her situations, and I really am inspired by her. But I wanted to have a throwback to some of the people like, Wally, that wasn't with us, and Dr. Carter and some of the other people from the community, but also the people that are there every single year, but have not gotten up and done their presentation yet. So my biggest fear was that I was going to leave somebody out that I didn't get an opportunity to share something about them. And I hope everybody that was there that wanted a little bit of a nod got that nod, and that was really what my goal was for the event.
Well, then, okay, I do have a question for Brian FA. But what, as you prepped, what was one of the more interesting things you learned about a speaker at Macstock, Brian Henson?
Well, it's interesting. There's so many things that you can look into. I mean, it's funny because one of the things that I try to do is I look back at some of the things that really inspired me. I think of Dave Hamilton, right, in his presentation. Dave's had phenomenal presentations at Macstock, but one of the things that really inspired me was when he did Wally's Film Festival, and he did that film fest with his daughter, who was living in Italy with her fiance. Now she's married to a hockey player that was there, and the connection that you could see that Dave has with his daughter, and really a truly wonderful side of Dave Hamilton, who I have a lot of respect, not only for his podcasting ability, being an OG in podcasting, he's a very savvy business person too. But to see this other side, and it's like, he's a musician. He's an awesome dad. He's a great podcaster. He's a great businessman. I mean, Dave Hamilton's like it. I mean, it's like, hey, I mean, David Pogue was great, and we got Dave Hamilton. Forget Tim Cook. I mean, so, and no offense to Tim Cook, don't get me wrong, but I think it's getting to know these layers of these people that you really have this ultimate respect for them as you build that kind of knowledge of the things that you'd like to talk about when you're going to introduce them. And it's truly being inspired by these people in the community. Like I mentioned, Chris Cook, Dave Hamilton, Mike Schmidt, these are people that truly inspire me. And I do consider them Apple heroes. I really do. And Brian, BFA for that matter, too. I think he's absolutely fantastic. I've enjoyed getting to know you through the years, even as your career has evolved in education and stuff like that. You're a phenomenal speaker. I love all the podcasting you're doing now. Every podcast I fire up, Brian's on there. I mean, he is rocking and rolling now. He's on Dave Ginsburg. He's on with Marty Gensius. He's on Chuck Joyner's podcast. He's got his own. So yeah, it's fun to be able to root for a lot of people and just see how they're involved in the Apple community. And that's very inspiring to me. Rather than one magical thing that I've learned, it's really an ultimate respect for a lot of the people in the community.
If I could interject, if that's okay. When I was, Brian, when you were mentioning, the inspiration that you get from hearing these speakers, a lot of those items, and I thank you for mentioning the podcast. A lot of that comes from being in the connections to Macstock, and whether it's the podcast or if there's a little side project of something that I'm working on, on the tech end, because it was the confidence of talking to people while at Macstock to give confidence to be able to do some of these things, to do something kind of creative with a Raspberry Pi, or, those types of little things that I wouldn't have done it if I didn't have that face-to-face communication, that conversation with that's low inference, being able to just talk and not be able to have that back and forth of saying, here's what I tried, and being able to communicate where it's not just a one-sided conversation or something that you're reading somewhere, but saying, hey, here's what I tried, here's what didn't work, here's some things you might want to consider. That's a lot of that comes from Macstock.
I mentioned in my opening comments that one of the things that the I in iMac stood for, according to Mr. Jobs when he introduced the iMac, was inspire. And inspire just felt like the perfect theme for Macstock 10. And it really was a great way to wrap up the last 10 years. And hearing you say, hey, I was inspired to try something with the Raspberry Pi, or I was inspired to try something different with this piece of software, is super gratifying, because that's exactly what I always hope Macstock to be, a place for people to learn and play and experiment and, just go outside of their comfort zone just a little bit and try something new, try something that you've never done before. And That's super cool to hear you say that. Hey, Darren, so you've been sitting here listening to Brian Squared talk about Macstock and what has been going on or what went on behind the scenes at Macstock this summer. What
Yeah.
what kind of questions do you have as someone who hasn't attended but maybe would attend in the future if we can convince you to make that trip across the pond?
Oh,
What would you want to
absolutely.
know about Macstock or what goes on behind the scenes that our two volunteering experts could answer for you?
Well, I think Brian Henson specifically mentioned a couple of things that already as answers to questions that I would have asked. One of which was back in the day when we used to have the Macworld Expo, for instance. I have very fond memories of our local user group hiring a minibus. We drove up to London, all of us, and we piled on into the Macworld Expo. And then, of course, as Brian Henson was saying, that when that all went away, it left a void. And sounds like what you guys put on isn't just celebrating the podcasting community, much of which is US based, but celebrating the Apple community, and it's all about community, and I completely agree with that. So Brian Henson's pretty much already answered my question, and it was around community with especially when Macworld stopped, and we have a little bit of a vacuum here as well because of that, because a lot of the community type get-togethers are US focused, which is pretty tricky for us over here in the UK. So we don't get out much.
Well, if I can give just a little, maybe one day there'll be a Macstock UK. Okay, let's just put that out there.
Here we go.
Maybe someday there will be a Macstock UK. I'm not making any promises. I'm just saying maybe. It's always a possibility. Who knew that Macstock would even make it to 10 years? So who's to say what's going to happen in the next 10 years? I'll be a heck of a lot older, but hey, maybe there'll be a Macstock UK. You never know. But if I can give a plug for our friends at Ecamm, this year was also the first year that they did Creator Camp UK. So they did their main Creator Camp is in Portsmouth, Massachusetts in September, but they did a Creator Camp UK and then Creator Camp Macstock. So perhaps, to get a little, and they're very community focused as well. So to get a little of that community feel that you have at Macstock, but with a slightly different angle, because it is Mac software, but a slightly different angle on it, from the perspective of video production of all sorts, you could go to Creator Camp UK next year.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a good point, because I remember Doc Rock and Katie saying that they were visiting the UK, and wouldn't that be I did have a thought at the time that wouldn't that be good to have a little possible mini Macstock UK edition?
Yeah, that would be amazing. I would love to do that. Not only because
one day, you never know.
I do need to get to the UK. I have this deep-seated desire to be there and explore and, take in as much of the UK as I possibly can. But, maybe one of these days when I get the opportunity to do that, we'll do a Macstock UK at the same time. That would be cool. That'd be cool. Darren's paying for it, by the way.
Uh-oh. That'll be £14.50, won't it?
There you go. Yeah.
Perfect.
Brian Flanigan-Arthurs, it's always hard to narrow it down when you're asked this type of question, but do you have any favorite highlights from this year, either on stage or off stage? Either way.
It's hard to say. everything that's been mentioned about all the amazing speakers and everything that's learned, it's hard. One thing I immediately took away is obviously the background, having the, and that's just one example of, being able to incorporate something that you learned kind of right away. And of course, it's a little tongue in cheek because it's an artificial background, but being able to incorporate and learn. I had, listened to Chuck Joyner's presentation and his idea of that continuous learning and being able to take something and incorporate it into your routines that you learned, and then being able to replicate that again. I know something right away that resonated with me was the use of focus modes, and listen to Jill McKinley's presentation.
Yeah.
Something I took away right away, and it wasn't that I wasn't using them, is that I had set it and forgot it for a few years. And it's such a powerful tool, and a lot of times it's seeing how somebody else uses that tool can give me ideas, even if I'm already using that particular tool, and just kind of seeing their workflow. Bigger than that, sometimes there's the presenters that I learn the most from are the ones that I may not be using the software they are particularly expounding their knowledge on. And I say that with no disrespect to the presentation. In fact, I say it with the utmost respect, because it's being able to see their workflows, and it's almost like visually seeing how they think through a complex problem. And for all of those are the ones that I can sometimes gain the most knowledge out of, and really come back to think about, here's a really intelligent person who solves these, who in their daily lives are working through complex issues, and they're using this software. I may not use that software specifically in my workflow, but just the how-to and their methodology of going through really gets me to think. And of course, nothing can top off being an assistant to a mad scientist either.
Yes, that I hinted that we might refer to your nickname that I gave you on the fly, mind you. When I gave my presentation, your nickname instantly became Brygor, because I had this idea to I was bringing new life to old Macs. So I had this idea. Well, actually, Janet had the idea to get the kind of Dr. Frankenstein lab coat and goggles. I added the goggles. Janet said the lab coat. And sure enough, I bought an authentic lab coat and not so authentic goggles, but then realized after because I had to duck behind the curtain to switch into the lab coat and put on the goggles, came out, and everybody's like, oh, look at the lab coat and goggles. Haha, that's funny. And then I realized in that split second that the demo Macs that I wanted on the desk in front of me were not there. And I needed to come up with a plan to get them there, but make it feel like part of the presentation. So I called out to Brygor, my assistant, to come with me and come get the Macs in the back room. And we ran back there and grabbed the Macs and brought them back out, carried over our heads. I had the 2013 Mac Pro carried over my head, and you had the iMac, I think, and made it part of the presentation. That mistake of not having them there became, we were like out getting the body parts that Dr. Frankenstein was going to use to turn into his new creature. So that was fun. And yeah, you became at that moment Brygor to me. Yeah, that's right. How about you, Brian Henson? Do you have any favorite highlights from the year?
Well, I enjoyed your presentation, Mike. I will say a lot of people, because you're obviously the founder of the Macstock, people don't focus on the passion that you have. And you did two presentations. You did an eCam presentation and then bringing life to old Macs. Yeah. And I think one moment for me that was great was when, the way you talked about the beauty of some of these old machines and that it kind of like breaks your heart to seeing them going to a landfill. And so really kind of your presentation, I think, worked really well off of your passion for old Mac hardware. And knowing you as well as I do, I know you're not quick to to send your old hardware off, either on
I'm
a
not.
trade or anything like that too. So it was a fantastic presentation, and I thought that was absolutely great. And it was fun to see Brian actually interact with you too as a volunteer. I mean, I will say this. I mean, Brian's a really skilled presentator, and I remember last Macstock, we had a very complex presentation that was ahead of you, and it was very similar to your presentation if you looked at it from an outline type of view. You really went on stage and pivoted in a way that made your topic very accessible and very different last year. And I don't know if maybe everybody realized like how well you pivoted in that particular situation too. So I know I'm not talking about something from Macstock 10, but I thought it was worth it to note in Macstock 9 that was one of my highlights. And I know you probably felt you did well in that pivot, but I just wanted you to know I really noticed that, Brian, and I thought you did an amazing job in that situation.
Well, thanks. And that's the thing. You never know, what happens in the moment. And it's being able, one of the aspects of being a presenter or, being able to facilitate something is trying to be able to be quick on your feet and think through, what can I do differently and in the moment, and it's thrilling. And, we've compliments to you, you were always able to jump in and know that what the, by doing your research and being able to know about somebody in the background and what they're about, what their skill sets in, it really creates that opportunity to be able to pivot and be quick on your feet.
Was it also your experience as an educator, though, Brian, that I would imagine you often have to pivot on your feet? You have to come up with a new direction for your lesson plan if you don't feel like it's going the way that you planned it to go. Did that
It
help?
always goes 100% as you planned. What are you
Of course
talking
it
about?
does. Yeah.
No, of course. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things, for sure, professionally, just to be able to, have plans, not just plan B, but, C through Z as well,
Right.
being able to go through and, hey, if this doesn't work, try something different.
Well, I think we kind of danced around this enough. I was also going to ask you each what your favorite presentation was this year, but is there anything that you didn't mention that you wanted to highlight, either of you, in terms of a favorite presentation?
I wouldn't necessarily say favorite, but just in the sense of I love the mix, and I think Brian Henson mentioned this a little bit of how Macstock evolves. It's the style, the amount of time given for a presentation, whether or not it has the equivalent, like a deep dive aspect to it, or 50-minute presentation, 90-minute workshops. I think my favorite aspect is kind of like what was alluded to earlier, just that aspect of keeping it fresh, updating it, where you have a slate of presenters that have presented before, but on a different topic, mixed in with people who have attended but not presented, people who are brand new to the Macstock community. That's my overarching just favorite thing, is just how it's always a great value of getting information, entertainment, and learning that you can just reflect on all the way till next year and beyond. One of my things that I do to prepare for going to Macstock is watching previous Macstocks and there's so many evergreen topics that even as software evolves and new version numbers come out and new operating systems come out, again, whether it's, and I mentioned earlier, but just that the think through of how somebody approaches the topic is awesome. And that's one of my favorite things.
It was really interesting how naturally the topics that were submitted this year fit into previous year's themes, and that's what gave me the idea to break up the days by past themes. So, for those who are listening and haven't been to Macstock before, every year since 2018, I've introduced a typically single word theme for the year. And the very first one was productivity. And we've had a number of themes since then, including this year's, which was inspire. And the talks that were submitted all not only did they all naturally fall into one of the handful of themes that we've had in the past, but they also worked out in such a way that I could break them up by day. So we had past themes of play and create on Friday. We had productivity and learn on Saturday, and we had level up, the 1 2-word theme, level up and share on Sunday. And it worked out so incredibly well. And that all wrapped up together fit within the theme of Inspire, because many of the folks also used their opportunity to, in my case, play with old hardware, but to inspire people to maybe bring life to their old hardware themselves. So yeah, it was amazing how that worked, and how everything just dovetailed into everything else this year. It was like it was meant to be for Macstock 10. Brian Henson, did you have a favorite presentation that you didn't get to mention?
Well, you love all your children, Mike. So, but I will say there's 3 things that I do want to highlight. Jeff Gammon's presentation I thought was phenomenal.
It was really good.
Encouraging people that, everybody can be an artist, right? Mike Schmidt did a very kind of similar kind of idea that he said that he didn't feel he was an artist. And then he's doing his own artwork right now.
Right.
Jeff iterated on that. And it's like, not only is Mike Schmidt an artist, but you're going to be an artist too. And, Jeff is a really incredible human being. And seeing him embrace that presentation, I thought that was absolutely fantastic. Marty Gensius, I'll be honest with you, I thought he brought the humor again to his nighttime presentation. Obviously you could see the people that are very committed to him, seeing Chuck Joyner, seeing BFA there to help with these breakout groups and stuff like that too. I really enjoyed that Marty always brings something funny. Like, right, you're diagnosing your Mac, right? And what's the process? The first thing on Google, right? And then something from a support group in 2012 that hasn't been updated since then, that type of thing. It was hilarious and it was absolutely great. So I would say that was another moment that I really enjoyed. And I will share this because I think that other people haven't had the opportunity to understand how prepared Chris Cook is. Now, I get to run her
Incredibly
slides.
prepared.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so last year I was prepared that I knew I was going to run her slides. Literally, because I had several things going on. It was literally as we were getting her up on the platform, can you run her slides? And I'm like, yeah, I can do it.
That was my fault. I forgot to ask you ahead of time.
And I probably should have thought about that. Chris was going to need somebody to run her slides too. But when you can see how much craftsmanship and preparation she went into her presentation, it was phenomenal. I mean, obviously you have to understand, right? She can't see what's up on the screen. So there's a level of trust that she has to have with the person that's running the slides. But because of her level of preparation and how much time she put into it, she makes it relatively easy for anybody to go up there and like, all right, I think this is time to go to the next slide. It's so well prepared. It's very Mike Schmidt-esque. And like if you've ever seen a Mike Schmidt presentation, he doesn't move his insertion point on the screen. He records it so he doesn't have any of these tech issues. Chris has that level of craftsmanship to her presentation that a lot of people don't see and takes advantage of her strengths. But it also, because she's blind, it doesn't interfere in any way from her having a rocket visual presentation, which is phenomenal. So those are my 3 big ones.
I think it's really interesting to ask the question, and it's why I did ask the question of what your favorite presentation is, because we're getting it from the perspective of you as volunteer. We're getting it from your perspective as the person who ran her slides. And so you get a little bit more insight into a particular presentation than maybe someone who's just sitting at one of the tables gets. And so I thought it was really nice to hear how well she was prepared and how you could see that preparedness because you're the one who ran the presentation for her. Yeah.
And she built her own slides using AI.
Yeah.
Now, this is the thing. This is a person who can't see that built these beautiful slides. And to me, that level of craftsmanship is amazing. And that's why I wanted to call it out, because I don't think, unless you think about it, you don't realize what all went into what was really a phenomenal presentation. And I think she's a huge asset to the community. And I'm really inspired by her. And I mean that sincerely.
Well, I asked Janet, my wife, who's an amazing volunteer and who said that, one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is how much time goes into behind the scenes stuff for Macstock all throughout the year. Pretty much from the point that, Macstock 10 ends to the point that Macstock 11 begins. She is one of the people behind the scenes who does a lot of that work that folks don't normally see. So she didn't get the opportunity to mention that, but I did want to mention that on her behalf. But she did have a question for you two. She says that her favorite part of volunteering is getting to meet so many of the attendees and to get to know some of their non-Apple interests. So the question to each of you is, what are your favorite parts of volunteering? I'll let either of you start.
BFA, go ahead. I want to.
Thanks.
Thanks.
There's so many awesome aspects. I think, as Janet had pointed out too, is getting to know people and seeing them in a relaxed environment. People are there to learn. People are there to, take their time and become more proficient at various things that they're learning about within the topics of Macstock. But it's just being able to, from my perspective in volunteering, I would say probably, yeah, very similarly, being able to just interact with people and being an outlet if there's an issue that does come up, the things that you don't plan for, being able to lend a hand and assist. That's probably where it comes in. I think Brian Henson had mentioned the Marty's presentation and all the preparation and work that went into that. Seeing some of the behind the scenes in that, he had being able to assist and help him with leading one of the breakout groups from that. He provided me a little inside baseball of his preparation work, and that was really neat. Being able to test some of his AI prompts that he was writing and try it out on a couple of different AI platforms and just see how it, the responses would come in and if it broke it, basically, So some of those, being able to kind of help people in the behind the scenes way that when you see it actually exist in the moment, you kind of get that even greater appreciation.
And Marty in particular, talk about all the prep that Chris puts into her presentation and Mike Schmitz puts into his presentations. Marty in particular must have started the prep on his presentation, late March, something like that. So, he put a good 4 months of time and thought into this thing. And I think you in particular just highlighted, you can see it. You can see it behind the scenes. You might not recognize it as someone who's participating in the little breakout groups that we got into, but when you get to assist him testing out the prompts that he generated and what have you, that's when you really see the work that he put into it. So, yeah. How about you, Brian Henson? Do you have a favorite part of volunteering?
I'll build on what Janet said. I think it's fun to get to know people even outside of their Apple interest. Obviously, we're all passionate about the Apple community or going to an event called Macstock, but getting to know some of the little things like Kirsten, who we haven't mentioned. Obviously, I bike a lot. I shouldn't say obviously because people may not know that. I bike a lot, and so does she, right? And so now she's taken up auto racing. I mean, she's literally going to these tracks and doing performance auto racing. So it's fun to kind of find out some of the things beyond obviously people's Apple's passion. I mean, Doc Rock is from, the Rock is, being from Hawaii. A lot of people that are local there, Kama'aina, to use the term, refer to it as the Rock. My wife's from Hawaii. So being able to talk a little bit about things in Hawaii and stuff like that. Those are very fun things, like Janet indicates, to get to know people from a different perspective, even if there's a little bit of an Apple tie-in. I think about, Rachel Schmidt and their son coming, who is phenomenal too. That kid's got a bright, bright future ahead of him. And just getting to know both of them, a little bit more. And Rachel's been a past presenter, and she's obviously always there to support Mike. But I think those are things that are sometimes don't get talked about, because we always have great presentations and everybody's passionate about Apple, but there's really so many amazing people in the community that have so much depth to what's going on in their lives. And it's fun to come and really interact with really interesting people.
Yeah. And Brian Flanigan-Arthurs, I actually have a question for you from Janet. And I did get your approval on this first. Before we went live, I asked if it was okay to ask this question, but she wanted me to ask about your wife calling Macstock your annual sleepaway camp.
Yeah. Yeah. So, my wife can tell how excited I get when Macstock is around the corner, whether it's preparation work and, actually with the presentation itself, or whether it's catching up on some old previous years of Macstock. And she could just see the glimmer in my eye of how excited I am to go away to summer camp. And she's, and as an educator, it's that time of year where you use a little bit more of a downtime. To being able to take off work in the summer after summer school ends is a little bit easier than when the students are in session. And so it affords me the opportunity to take about that week and make my way from where I'm at over to Macstock and enjoy the company with everyone. And it kind of it's like a little getaway, and it's fun. So that's a little bit of the story there. And being able she knows that, the time zone change and things like that. I'll call her and communicate or text every day, but, not being able to have those regular conversations that I would, during, summer camp times.
Not in summer camp times. That's a really interesting point that you raised too. I know 2021, because of what you do, you've had to plan around that. And the time of year that Macstock falls actually works out really well for you, and you can make it most years because of that. But that's an important aspect of planning. If we're talking about behind the scenes stuff, is when is the optimal time of year to host Macstock? A lot of conferences are held in the fall. Many are held in spring. You rarely get them around the holidays. You rarely get them in the dead of winter. But summer is a popular time. And for many folks, if I were to suddenly pick up and move Macstock to, let's say, late August or early September, folks like you wouldn't be able to come because of what you do. Those who bring their family with them, they wouldn't be able to come because the kids are now heading back to school, whether it's, junior high, high school, college, whatever it is, they're heading back to school and they wouldn't be able to make it. So that's a really interesting point that you raised, and certainly one of the considerations I have every year when I decide when to host it. Okay, so let's end on this, and I'll let either of you start. But this year marked 10 years of Macstock, and in those 10 years, 12 technically if you include the virtual Macstocks, but 10 years of in-person Macstock, and in those years, a lot has actually remained the same, but a lot has changed as well. So, and again, either of you can start. What has been the biggest change throughout the years? And part two, what do you hope will never change?
Brian, if you want to go first.
Oh, well, first, this is easy for me. The community, I hope, never changes. There's some amazing people. It's great to see so many people coming back, but it's also great to see newer people participating in the community too, and realize that they're so embraced. I think that's the one constant. The amazing people that show up, obviously, in Crystal Lake, Illinois, not Woodstock, Illinois, even though we say it's Woodstock, are every single year are absolutely fantastic. I think the changing, I mean, the big obvious ones are the expansion of the event, and then obviously you always tweaking the format. I mean, you went very much with a kind of like the idea of embracing the TED Talk early on.
I did,
And
very much.
and then we had the evolution where you literally had to choose these breakout sessions effectively, where you had to pick, right? You know, that type of thing. And then now where everybody can be together effectively again. So, you know, it's kind of like the Mac operating system, right? You experiment with it. Some people love certain things, some people don't like things. You know, what is old is new, and what is new is becomes old. And I think the one thing is that you're always thinking, Mike, about how to keep the event fresh, iterating it, but without changing the basic DNA of what a great community is, of people that just love Apple and Apple technology, and the great people that are really a part of this community that have so much knowledge and talent and are really impressive people just to interact with for a few days.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, for me, you know, I echo a lot of what Brian had just mentioned. You know, that community aspect of being able to bring everyone together, to keep everyone, you know, that the community, no matter what changes are made, will never go away. You know, having that common interest is really that bond that brings people in, but it's that interaction that keeps everyone together. And you could see it in the events that obviously are scheduled events during the daytime, but even the unscheduled events in the evening time, where people are able to interact with one another, and there you don't necessarily have a scheduled breakfast time, but the way that people will communicate with one another and purposely meet to be able to enjoy the camaraderie of being able to have breakfast together, you know, before each day starts, things like that. Just that community and camaraderie is something that's key. And going to different education conferences isn't always that case. You might have the people you may have traveled with from your state, but you don't have that that bond that really keeps everyone together in that same way. So I hope that never ever changes. One of the things that I think has evolved that's been really nice that I've seen, and then my time span is a little shorter on it, but enjoying having the conference at the same place where I'm sleeping too is great from a time aspect, because you want to go back to the earlier point of community, being able to connect with everybody, and by having to travel to a different location, it makes it more challenging. And every mile that and minute that you're on the road, going back and forth is less time where you're interacting with one another. So.
You know, as I asked that question, as I started to hear your answers, I realized that your perspective of the biggest change is going to be a heck of a lot different than Brian Henson's perspective of the biggest change, because you started attending shortly after the pandemic. The first time we could actually have people together at Stage Left Cafe in Woodstock, I believe, was the first time you attended. And fortunately for you, you were able to get a room at the hotel just down the road. But many people stayed at the Hampton Inn, which is, you know, it's a good 30 minutes away. And while they were always super generous with shuttling people to and from Macstock with their shuttle van, it's a haul. And to be able to all be in one place, I think, was probably one of the best changes that, on top of everything else, one of the best changes I made was to get everybody together in one place, so that you didn't have to run back to a hotel because you needed to make a phone call or do some work or whatever. You could just run up to your room and do that, and then come back down and rejoin everybody and continue to have a great evening. So it's nice that
if I could,
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I just want to interject and just say, you know, the particular place, even if we're all together, it's specifically that place is great. The staff is phenomenal. The amenities are great. It's a great location. Just besides the fact that it is a location, it is a fantastic location. And kudos to all the folks, behind the scenes that help out in that way too, who work for the hotel.
Oh my gosh, yeah, Mario
Yeah.
and Steve and Linda and Amanda and Natasha at the front desk, and yeah, all these amazing folks who work at the Holiday Inn in Crystal Lake really do make it easier for everybody. And as I was going to say, it's nice that the hotel has a restaurant on site. It's nice that they have a bar area on site. It's nice they have the pool. It's nice that they have multiple levels on which people can hang out. So there's a lot of opportunity for people to hang out in small groups and get to interact with new people, get to interact with friends. You mentioned education conferences, and I was going to touch on that too, Brian. A lot of conferences, you see a familiar face and you say, oh, great, I'm going to go talk to, Susie or Steve or, whoever I see across the room. And you just kind of naturally form these little cliques of people that but you don't necessarily go outside of those groups. And we've always been super fortunate that with Macstock, people are more than willing to go outside of those groups and to form new groups and to make new friends. And that's something that's always been really special about Macstock, and one of the things that I enjoy the most, and that, like both of you, I hope never changes, because it's something that makes it a much more inclusive environment for the entire weekend.
Yeah, 100%. And I will say this, I think there's both elements of that. One of the things that Brian kind of inspired my thought on this, there's people that come to Macstock that spend several days either before or after the event going to downtown Chicago to an Apple
Yeah.
store together, or just hanging out and traveling together too. So you do have these groups of people that, they have formed, a special bond with each other, but there's always that openness to having other people join them and participating, if it's going to the Apple store or checking out the Magnificent Mile or whatever they plan on doing as well. So.
And that is one of the reasons that this is a great location. And while Woodstock itself, if there were a decent hotel in Woodstock and, that would work for this type of thing, I probably would go back there. But Crystal Lake has not one, but two train stations for Metro Rail, which allows people to very easily hop on the train and get to downtown Chicago if they want to spend a day there. So you can continue to keep your room at the Holiday Inn, go visit the city, spend a day there at museums or, other cultural events that might be going on any particular weekend in Chicago, hang out at Millennium Park, whatever, and then make your way back to Crystal Lake and stay at the hotel again. And it's like, what is it, Brian? It's like, because you've taken the train, it's like a mile from the hotel. It's very, very close. So it's a quick ride from a friend or an Uber or something, and you're there.
Yeah, you could practically, because I'm a big walker and I love walking.
I know.
You could practically walk from the train station to the hotel.
And
there's
you
just
did.
There's just a highway. I have before, but
Yes.
sometimes there's a highway in the middle that's a little crowded.
That's a
And
problem.
I remember it was almost embarrassing. I had to call for an Uber when I got to the highway. And I said, I literally just need to be shuttled across the highway.
Yeah, it's very busy, both
Yeah.
directions, and it's a 4-lane highway, and that's it. People should allow you to cross, but do they? No, they don't. So,
Yeah.
it's a bit of a problem. But anything else you guys want to add or throw in before we wrap up our discussion?
Well, Darren, you're a fantastic co-host. I got to give him some love. I love listening to you and Mike together on the podcast. We're hoping we get you to Macstock. There is an important UK tradition. You come across the pond. I hope you've got a good singing voice, Darren. I haven't heard it yet, but Don McAllister sang "Back to the USSR" next to a DeLorean in a past Macstock.
He
so you're going to have to be the follow-up to Don McAllister doing karaoke at Macstock. So there'll be that expectation, Darren.
Right. I'm not sure if I could follow that, but yeah, I'll give it a go. Yeah, why not? How bad could it be?
How about Born in the USA? We'll get you to sing Born in the USA.
Oh, I got to get the raspy voice together for that one. Yeah,
That's
I'd have
right.
to try. I'd have to practice. Yeah, that's it.
Well, we're about to hear from Darren because I did promise him the essential app this week. Now, if either of you,
Oh,
Brians, were really looking forward to presenting an essential app, we'll certainly let you do it. But I did promise Darren that the last episode, when I stepped in and gave an essential app, and he said, "Oh, but I was going to give an essential app," so I did promise him the essential app slot this
wow.
year or this week.
This year. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
No.
You can have
Yeah.
it all
Last
year if
time
you want to. No, I did promise the essential app slot this week to him if he still wanted it.
Yeah, sure. And
We,
luckily, I can actually even remember what it was. So that's
oh,
really
well,
that's a
cool.
bonus. So
We'll get to that
there we
in
go.
a minute. I do have a tip to share, but let's go ahead and wrap up our Macstock conversation and ask, were you at Macstock this year? What was your favorite highlight of the weekend? Be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments of this week's show notes found at formaceyesonly.com. Now, I do have a quick tip, and this just came up with the upgrade to Firefox. I thought this was an amazing new addition to Firefox 153, and it is that you can now generate QR codes for any web page that you're on directly from within Firefox. So, with that QR code, you can then share it with a friend, you can open it on your phone, or you can add it to presentations or printed materials, whatever you want to. And to do that, it's super simple. Again, you have to be updated to the latest version of Firefox, version 153 or higher. And here's the trick. You don't right-click on the web page itself, but while you are on a web page, you right-click on the tab for that web page. And then under Share, once you get the context menu for right-clicking on the tab, under Share, you select Generate QR Code. And then once generated, you can copy the code and you can paste it wherever needed, or you can save it out as a PNG. So that is a brand new feature of Firefox, just came out in the latest edition, and I thought it was an amazing addition because I'm always being asked by people how to generate a QR code for a website. Just download and install Firefox like you should be doing anyway, and you'll be able to do it directly from your Mac. So that is this week's For Mac Guys Only Quick Tip. And that brings us up to your essential app, Darren. So what is
Perfect.
your essential app this week?
Okie dokie. Okay, my essential app is available for everything, although the main reason I like it is specifically on the iPhone. So this is a helper application by the same guys that make Fantastical, I believe, is a helper app that does the same thing for contacts instead of your calendar. So this app is called Cardhop, and it's essentially just a very fancy and very nice interface to your contacts database, and allows you to dive in and change various things in there in a nicer environment, and nicely presented as well. But it has a very special feature that I think is really, really useful. So I have a little side hustle that I do on the side, as it were, and instead of making business cards as you would usually do, like little pieces of cardboard and so on, and hand them out to people, one of the features of Cardhop is to designate one of your cards as your business card, and it automatically displays that as formatted as a business card by just rotating the phone. So that is really handy. So when you meet someone who you want to pass your business details on to, you just launch Cardhop and rotate the phone and show it to them, and you'll have a very nicely formatted business card with all the business particular details that you want to share specifically to your business. and you can really easily edit that. And going on from the QR code theme there as well, which is a very nice little segue there. So it auto generates a QR code on your electronic business card, so that when the person you're passing the information to scans it with their phone, it will be added to their contacts database from your dynamically generated business card QR code. So there's a lovely feature in Cardhop if you want to put that on your phone and be able to present your business as a dynamic business card. The advantage is that you can then, if you have any changes, rather than sending it off to the printers and getting 1,000 pieces of cardboard printed and so on and waiting in the post, you can just edit it there and then, and the next time you rotate your phone, it'll have your new business card on there, and you can choose themes, you can choose the color scheme and everything else to customize your business card experience. So that's my choice, which is Cardhop on the iPhone, but it's also available, I believe, for the Mac as well, and so on.
It is indeed available for the Mac. By the way, you mentioned the folks who create Fantastical, that's FlexiBits, make Cardhop. I do have a perpetual license for Cardhop and Fantastical from before they went to subscription-based. Now, here's something really interesting that I had no idea of, but when you look at their plans, they now have a free plan. They never had a free plan before, which is
excellent,
amazing. So you can subscribe on an annual or a monthly basis, and the free plan pretty much includes everything I have with my perpetual license. It gets you Fantastical and Cardhop. It gives you the calendaring. It gives you the ability to add and edit contacts, to search, interact with your contacts, birthday views and notifications. I don't know if it I don't see if it does. Oh, you can't do the business cards. So you do have to pay to do the business cards. There you go. I just expanded the thing. So if you want to do what Darren was just extolling the virtues of, and we do have to talk about this intense dislike for little 2.5 by 3-inch pieces of cardboard, Darren. There's something going on there.
Exactly. Turn the world digital. That's what we.
That's right. Well, and I am a little disappointed that I can't just rotate my Mac on its side and show my business card on its screen. But there you go.
Yeah.
But it does look like the free plan does give you a fair amount of what you can do with Fantastical and Cardhop. So definitely a good place to start. And then when you want to jump up to the next level, it starts as low as $4.75, and that's, well, in US dollars, $4.75 per month on an annual basis. And if you opt to go with a monthly subscription, it starts at $6.99 per month. So, what is that, $60 a year? Something like that. $4.75 is just shy of $60 a year, something like that. So pretty good deal for both applications. And like I said, I do have both. I do tend to use Cardhop more than I use Fantastical. But I've never used Cardhop on the iPhone, and I think I'm going to have to investigate that.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think
either of you use
Mr. BFA mentioned that it's also has a education discount as well, I believe.
Oh, yes, I see that. Oh, thanks, Brian. Yeah, Brian pointed out that there is an educational discount available from FlexiBits as well. Probably a pretty good discount, no?
I'm not sure. They say they do offer one with proof. Looks like a military discount too.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I see. I just expanded that frequently asked question. Yes, we do offer an educational or military discount, and you just contact them with proof of your educational institution, student status, or military service, and they will extend you that discount. So very cool.
Nice.
Very cool. Do either of you use either Fantastical or Cardhop?
I do. I use Fantastic. I have got a SetApp subscription. So my
Oh,
spouse, she uses
course.
BusyCal, which doesn't cost us anything else, right? And I
Yeah.
use BusyCal for years. But I will admit, I like Fantastical. Really the two big things for me. One is I like its little dictation thing or its calendar event. It's really two things. You can take a calendar, basically an email, and it'll turn it into a calendar event. So if somebody sends you an email and suggests a time, and it's not like a Google, thing that you're accepting, because I use the Apple Calendar. It does a really good job of doing that. If you want to dictate an event in, it gets it right every time. And on an iPhone, I think the Cadillac experience, the Lexus experience, whatever your favorite car is, that just zoomed
the one
by,
that
by the
just
way.
zoomed by,
Yeah,
yeah.
the one that just zoomed by
Oh,
is
did you
actually
hear that?
Fantastical on iOS is absolutely phenomenal. I love it how you can just scroll through your events to see what's coming up next month and everything like that. So yeah, I'm a big fan, and I'm not paid to endorse them in any way, shape, or form. So
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say not yet, but
Not-
yeah, that Cardhop looks really interesting, especially that business card feature.
That's very cool. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Darren. That's actually a really good suggestion. And it looks like it's a combo offer. So if you're going after Cardhop with their subscription, you're going to get Fantastical as well, which I can also endorse as being probably the best calendar app for the iPhone. I definitely have a license for that, and I pop into Fantastical on the iPhone all the time because it's just so much easier for me to grok than Apple's crazy calendar. I don't get Apple's calendar at all. I cannot figure it out. So I use Fantastical instead, which is much more straightforward, shows me what I need, and I can move on. So. And with that said, I think that is going to do it for this episode of For Mac Guys Only. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Remember, I do love to get your letters, so if you have any comments about the show, a tip to share, a software or hardware problem with your Mac, you can leave your favorites in the comments of this week's show notes found at formaccguysonly.com, or you can drop me a line, mike@formaccguysonly.com. And please be sure to subscribe to the show's YouTube channel at youtube.com/FMEOTV. Thank you, Brian. And click that little notification bell so you can find out when we are going live. You can join the chat room, and you can catch, excuse me, and you can catch all the behind the scenes stuff that doesn't make the final cut of the show. Hey, Brian Flanigan-Arthurs, what is the best way for folks to get a hold of you? And be sure to promote your podcast too.
Thank you. Again, thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure, and I really appreciate it. Best place to reach out and check out, see what I'm working on is probably my website. So brian8944.com. And there you'll also see some links to, again, projects, but also in particular, since you brought it up, the On the Desk of Brian podcast. We're in, I think it's episode 34 that's going to be
Wow.
recording later on. So it's early, but the way I kind of look at it is it's basically to my personal interests, things that I come across. And I almost feel like it's kind of like an aspect. I'm not much of a journaler, but it's a way for me to kind of journal out some of my thoughts and ideas and things that interest me. And it comes out every other week.
That's awesome. How about you, Brian Henson? What's the best way for folks to get a hold of you?
Probably the two best ways are I'm very active on LinkedIn. So if you look, I'm not the son of Jim Henson, the Muppet guy, but if you go after the Brian Henson after that, you'll find me. Also, GreaterMetroConference.com. I'm a high school conference commissioner. I'm very passionate about that. If you have any interest in high school athletics, you might want to check out a website that I put a ton of time in. Mike's helped me out with that too. So it's GreaterMetroConference.com. So
Very cool. And Darren, of course, what's the best way for folks to get a hold of you?
Yes. Well, the easiest way to send me a message is to email me at darren@formaccguysonly.com.
Very cool. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. And thanks to Brian and Darren for joining me this episode. Stay subscribed, and we'll talk to you next time. All right.
Cheerio.
Yes. Cheerio. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Folks, I am going to switch over to the end card here. Maybe we'll just wrap up. I don't know. What should I do? Yeah, we'll just wrap up. We'll say goodbye to the live stream, and I'll be back with you guys in just a moment. All right. Bye, everyone. See you next time.
Cheerio.